So today we're looking at the Comet. It's the tier 7 British medium tank that follows on from the Cromwell. It's a mobile medium tank that lacks armour but makes up for it with its 12 degrees of gun depression and its good all-round mobility. So let's go through various aspects of the tank, its pros, its cons, the equipment that I run with it, the ammunition that I run with it, and how I have my consumables. So the pros of this tank, it's got great DPM, second best in tier 7, just behind the Chi-Ri. It's got good all-round mobility. It's got great view range, second best in its tier behind the T20. It's got 12 degrees of gun depression, and it's got a really good HP pool of 1150. Some of the cons of the Comet is that while the armour has improved from the Cromwell, it's still weak, which leaves you vulnerable to artillery and derp guns. So unfortunately the Comet has quite a low alpha gun, which removes the scare factor that a lot of tier 7 medium tanks have, and so you really need to avoid trading with other tier 7 and higher medium tanks. The Comet's low alpha gun also has low penetration, which means that unless you carry a sufficient number of premium shells, you can run into difficulties during matches. While the Comet's mobility is good all round, you have lost some straight line speed from the Cromwell and you've lost some power to weight as well, so that is a significant loss. The gun handling, while it has improved from the Cromwell because you're now able to fit vertical stabilizers, it's still not great, and so the gun can often feel very frustrating to use. So for equipment, I like to run vertical stabilizers, I like to run a gun rammer and optics. Now, I run vertical stabilizers and a rammer because they're pretty much essential in every tank. You want to, whatever tank you're driving, you want to improve the performance of your gun as much as possible. So I run optics because when you're not able to get active damage, it's really useful to boost your view range as much as possible so you can get passive spotting assistance damage, which will just boost your experience, your credit intake, how well you do in that tank, your gun marks, everything like that. So for my ammunition loadout, I follow the typical sort of 2-to-1 ratio of standard to premium rounds, with 40 AP, 20 APCR, and I take an HE round. This isn't essential at all, but I find that it comes in useful every now and then. So for consumables, I've been free marking the Comet, so I was running food, but that's absolutely not necessary. You can run a fire extinguisher instead, but food will make everything feel better, it'll make the gun perform better and reduce the frustrating nature of how often the gun misses. So let's go take a look at the Comet in a couple of replays. Right, so today we're on the Province map in our tier 7 medium tank, the Comet. And straight away what I like to do in this tank is push up aggressively. You've got lots of mobility. We've got really good view range as well, so we want to make the best use of that we can. And especially on Province, which is quite a corridory map, you want to get to the strongest points on each flank as quickly as possible. So we're following this AMX-12T, we're pushing up towards the hill on the opposite flank. One thing you can do when you're pushing up here is keep an eye on the enemy team sort of area that they do the same sort of thing, like where the Type 64 and Leo were. However, don't try and focus too much because, like I did, you'll drive into a wall twice. I often find that it's better to push through to the top of the hill than it is to try and get some shots on the opposing flank. Generally, when you're driving up this road, you're quite exposed, and so it's best to get to the top of the flank. There's a little hill you can use with some bushes, or you can use your gun depression. So we're pushing up here. This bridge will be really useful if anyone comes at us like this Leopard has, because now we can use our 12 degrees of gun depression to keep ourselves nice and safe. We can put shots into him really easily. Comet gun handling lets us down, but because of our 12 degrees of gun depression, and because our turret's actually relatively well armoured compared to the Cromwell's turret, it was much easier for us to take out that Leopard. So we move up to this rock. We can use this bush here to spot anyone that comes near us. I try and put a shot into the VK. Misses because Comet gun handling, while better than the Cromwell, isn't exceptional. So we spot the Wolverine. This is what I wanted to do from this position. You can get view range all the way down towards the enemy base. We take out the Wolverine. Don't really know what he was doing there. And all the while, you just want to keep an eye on the minimap, because you are on a mobile medium tank with great DPM. And so you want to take advantage of anything that comes across you. So I've got my eyes on this Type 64. I'm also watching that E25 on the minimap, seeing what he's going to do. And I just want to keep an eye out on them, keep poking this bush, see if I can spot anyone else. And just kind of watch what my team are doing as well. You really have to respond to what your team does as much as you do what the enemy team does. So the Type 64 comes out to kill the T-3045M. I thought he was going to drive a little bit faster than that, so I preemptively shot, and because he stopped, hit the dirt, but I managed to take him out in the next shot. ISU-122S takes out the E-25, and so that flank's now safe. So this AMX-12T has done a really interesting thing of pushing up to the buildings, and he's now proxy spotting the VK and the AMX ELC. And because there's 3 artillery on each team, and because that's not an artillery safe position, he's going to get all the spotting, and I don't want that. So I push in with him. I'm a top tier medium tank. I try and put a shot into the VK, but Comet gun handling once again. You've got to learn when the best time it is for you to push in, and to exploit the fact that you're top tier, exploit the fact that the enemy's in a weaker position than you. Track the ELC, put a shot into his turret for some criticals, because that thing's got no armor, and it's a very small turret, so there's lots of stuff you can hit in there. And while we're doing this, while we're pushing up, we're also keeping an eye on the minimap, and I spot the Leopard, the Leo pushing through. Unfortunately, Comet gun handling lets me down again, and I only track him, but the MT-25 finishes him off for me, which is very much appreciated. It means that we can rack up more resistance damage. So we spot the AMX, thanks to our good view range, even though he's in bushes. And I put that 1 HE shell I carry to good use with a 193 damage roll into the side of him. So I'm thinking about maybe poking on the AMX-12T and the T1 Heavy. And I can't really decide which side to do it from, so I knock over some trees over here to give myself some concealment. I get spotted while doing that, so I pull back, because there are still 2 artillery on the enemy team, and so obviously I want to stay arty safe. Now, the M44 makes an interesting play of just pushing into this 12T. I didn't really expect that, so I didn't react quickly enough to save him. Yeah, push into the T1 Heavy in the 12T, aim for the 12T, take out the T1 Heavy, because of Comet gun handling. And then I try and stick around for another shot into the 12T, but unfortunately he reloads just before I do, and manages to get out of there. So at this point I've still got, almost all of my HP, damage is racking up, I just want to push into their base. There aren't many tanks left. We've been spearheading the attack this entire time. So this game's pretty much over, and it's just up to us to use our initiative, use our mobility to grab as much damage as possible. So we run into the 60 GFT. I push into him, he puts a shot into me. I take his tracks off and then just pull back out of his way. It's classic brawling against TDs with fixed guns. So we push up round the corner and get hit by the enemy artillery, the Lorraine, and take quite a bit of damage because the Comet doesn't stand up well to artillery shots. Even though the armor's better than the Cromwell, it's still based off of the Cromwell, so it's pretty weak all round. This game's pretty much over. It's quite a quick rapid fire game. And now we're just pushing into the Skoda and the AMX-12T. I take the time to aim that shot and it misses because of Comet gun handling. So while I said earlier that the Comet's gun handling was improved from the Cromwell because you can mount V-stabs, it's still not massively dependable. It's still not anywhere near as good as Russian medium gun handling. So you are going to miss a lot of shots which really you should be hitting. And now we're just pushing into the 12T. Because the MT-25 is pushed up and hasn't spotted the 12T, we know that he must be running away. And now, the fact that I'm in a Comet, which is a mobile medium tank with a decent top speed, means that I can chase after the 12T. This wouldn't be possible if I was in a Sherman Jumbo or another slow but heavily armoured medium tank. You have to know when to exploit your speed in the Comet. So at this point it's pretty obvious that the 12T is rushing our artillery. He's managed to get all the way down towards the GW Panther, and I'm just hoping that I'm going to be able to get a shot or two into him before this game finishes. Come up over this ridge, managed to snap a shot into him. That wasn't me aiming, that was just luck. Crash into a rock to slow myself down, and then finish off the 12T for the end of the game. So that was quite a quick fire game. 6 kills, 2.3k damage, 500 assistance damage. We're top tier, so we're going to do another replay, because I don't know if that one was able to show enough about how the Comet can perform in lots of different situations. I think that that was quite a niche game in the Comet. So let's go on to the next replay. Right, so today we're on the Mannerheim line, and we're in a tier 8 game, so it's nowhere near as good a matchup as the Province game was. And in this replay I'm trying to show you how the Comet can be played in a support role when maybe you're not able to take the front lines, you know, you're bottom tier or there's lots of enemy heavy tanks around. So in this game we're going to be heading up north because that's typically where I like to take my medium tanks. We've got the T-44 and the Jagdpanther coming with us. And we're going to try and play the B4 position or B5 position where there's a rock and there's bushes, which means that you've got solid cover and you've got concealment, which is really the best of both worlds. So we take a couple of blind shots at the LT-432, the latest bullshit Russian tank. It's basically the T-100 lightweight but at tier 8. And we're just going to try and hold this position, get some spots off on people. We spot the Indian Panzer, which is really nice. We outspot him even though he's a tier 8 medium tank. Managed to put a shot into him. We're kind of just pushing up with the T-44. And then another LT-432 pops up. And this is a bad spot for us because he's got 8 degrees of gun depression. He's also got an incredibly strong turret. And so he's going to be able to poke on us if we stay in that position. So obviously we have to fall back, and that's what we do. Unfortunately, our LT-432 has taken out the position we were in, so he's going to take a lot of damage and end up getting knocked out because he's not playing carefully enough and he's being way too aggressive. So we're kind of just sitting around this position. I move up because I want to get some shots on the tanks in the dip. So I try and put a shot into the LT-432, miss, try and put a shot into the Tiger, bounce, solid. But we're kind of just trying to poke and harass the enemy tanks that are around here. The Tiger decides he wants to commit. We decide let's punish him for this, putting shots into his low plate, which are a definite pen for us, and I don't want to have to use premium yet. I decide to ignore him. I probably should have shot the side of the turret rather than the Indian Panzer's tracks, and then we managed to bounce off the side of an LT-432 as well, which was super unfortunate and, you know, really just kind of unlucky. But now we're using this hill to our left to protect ourselves from the M12 on the enemy team. And we can also try and use our gun depression to put some shots into that guy. Unfortunately, the Comet gun handling means that that shot hits the dirt, and he's spamming premium AP, which goes straight through my turret. He doesn't need it. He has 144mm of penetration on his normal rounds. So there's not much we can do here really. We're kind of trapped by the LT-432, and it's probably best for us to fall back. So the T-43 is spotted, and we pull back to get a shot into him, which is good. T-44 puts a shot into him, and then I make the really stupid decision of deciding to finish him off, which wasn't necessary. He would have had to keep pushing into us. So instead I wasted 172 hit points that would have been useful later on in the game. So at this point, I'm pulling back. And I'm not pulling back from this flank because this flank is lost. I'm pulling back because we have to defend the base because the heavy tanks have been completely obliterated to the south. Now, the north base has some very interesting bushes that you can use to defend the base from all sorts of different locations. So I'm looking at the situation on the minimap and it doesn't look good. We're probably going to have 4 or 5 different tanks push into us from the south. So we drive up to these bushes here, and from here we're going to be able to use our gun depression to stay in cover, and we're going to be able to use these bushes to keep ourselves concealed while we spot the various ISs and Tiger Ps on the enemy team that are pushing up on us. And to this point I kind of get a bit flustered because there's suddenly 3 heavy tanks that I need to shoot. So I've got the premium loaded because it's difficult enough to pen these guys at range, and with the Comet's gun handling. But I focused on one of the ISs. You can see because he took a shot towards me on the move that I was just spotted. But now we can use the cover that this ridgeline provides to keep ourselves nice and safe from any return fire. We spot this IS again. I take a long time fully aiming and then it hits the side of his turret and bounces off. Managed to snap a shot in there, get some spotting as well through the friendly artillery. So once again we're trying to maximise our assistance damage and all the damage we can get through these ISs. That guy gets taken out. And now this game's kind of turned around briefly, and I'm thinking our artillery is in a good position to hit those 2 enemy tanks. There's 2 enemy heavy tanks to the south, so I want to go over there, I want to proxy spot them, or just spot them using some concealment, some bushes, some ridge lines. So I'm trying to move from bush to bush, position to position, trying to find the best possible place to try and do this from. But obviously at this point in the match I still have to worry about the enemy M12, so I have to try and stick to positions which are artillery safe. And I haven't spotted these guys yet, so I'm pushing up even further. I'm really hoping that our artillery is going to be able to take out these guys, because they are both around 130 hit points. Come around the corner with premium loaded, hoping to take out one of them. Unfortunately, my shot off the Samoa bounces, and the 45 TP puts a shot into me, which is really unfortunate because now I'm pretty much a one-shot for both of those guys and the Rheinmetall and the artillery if he gets lucky. So now I've suddenly got to be a lot more careful. That was another mistake I made this game. Threw away hit points that I really couldn't afford to throw away, which now means I'm going to have to play really carefully, really defensively for the rest of this game. So the T-44 gets taken out by the Rheinmetall Borsig, which is really unfortunate because it means that suddenly we're down to a half HP tier 8 tank destroyer, a very low HP tier 7 medium tank, and a very low HP tier 7 artillery piece. This game's definitely winnable, but it would be very difficult to pull it off. Kind of forget the map boundaries. I'm not really concentrating on that, so I try and drive off. But now we're pulling back round to these bushes that I was using earlier. So really this position is where we're going to try and make our final stand, spotting any heavy tanks that push up the middle for our artillery, and if anything pushes round the corner for the Scorpion G, we can support them there. Now I've got to be really careful at the moment because I only have 3 premium rounds left, because unfortunately through this game I've had to fire quite a few. So here you can really see the limitations of the Comet's poor penetration, and the fact that the way I carry ammunition on this thing with a ratio of 2 to 1 in these bottom tier games can be really risky. Now what I'm also really worried about is the fact they have a Leo who has been unspotted the entire game, which probably means that he's full HP, and the 3 of us having to deal with a full HP Leo on top of everything else is going to be just massively more difficult. So I'm just going to hang around in this bush, keep an eye out for the 2 heavy tanks, keep an eye out spotting the middle. So I'm trying not to waste any premium when this M12 randomly appears, so I reload to AP. Put a couple of good shots into him and managed to take him out. And that's That's potentially a huge bonus to our team, because now we're able to play in positions which were normally safe but weren't arty safe. And so our team's still in a really bad situation. We've only got 3 vehicles left. So the S51 gets taken out by the Leo, which is really unfortunate. That really hurts our ability to win this game. And now it's really coming down to the line. It's just myself and the Scorpion G. And so now at this point I've switched from how am I going to win this game to how am I going to get the most amount of damage and assistance damage out of this game. And I spot that the 45 TP is moved, he's repositioned. And unfortunately that distracts me while the enemy Leo pushes and round threatens to flank me. Really my main focus needs to be on this 45 TP. So I'm fully aiming a premium shot, hits the dirt because Comet gun handling. I kind of got unlucky this game, I think. But we take out the 45 TP. And now we're just kind of we're trying to use this low ground to shield ourselves. I have to go back to AP to conserve that 1 premium shell I have left. I get kind of unlucky that the Leo manages to hit me twice, especially that first shot on the move, considering I'm hull down. But this game's just based on RNG, so there's nothing you can really do about it. And now I'm completely trapped. I've got nowhere left to go. I need to take out one of these tanks to even have a chance of winning this game. And the Samoa just pushes in because he has massively superior armor. And is able to take me out. And that's the end of that game. That was 2.8k damage, 700 assistance damage, 5 kills. We were bottom tier. It wasn't against tier 9s, but I thought it would be good to show you guys not only a great game where we're top tier, but also a good game where we were bottom tier and where the Comet loses. I don't think it's fair to show only good replays and only wins, because that's not realistic. I think you have to show what it's like for a Comet to be fighting in a losing position, because you have to know how it will handle if you're ever attempting to do that yourself. So let's go take a look at the end plates. Right, so in the province map we ended up 3 marking the Comet, Ace Tanker, Confederate, Top Gun High Caliber, 2.3k damage, 500 assistance damage. Pretty decent game. We spotted 6 different tanks, through that 475 meter view range, which was decent. Top on the team for damage and XP. Made a profit, and we would have made a profit even without a premium account. So if we look at the sort of gun statistics, we fired 31 shots, 21 hit, 19 penned, which is what you should really expect from the Comet if you're pretty accurate yourself. Just kind of hitting 2/3 of your shots. And then you can expect most of them to pen if you're pretty good at managing, where you're aiming and which shells you're firing. So let's go look at the Mannerheim line end plates. So this was the Mannerheim line game where we were bottom tier. We managed 2.8k damage, 5 kills, 700 assistance damage. But obviously because we lost, it was only a second class. We came top on the team for experience, second on the team for damage, which kind of just says more about my teammates than it does about how I played that game. But in this game we kind of played the support role nicely. We defended the base well, held our own for as long as we could. We fired 39 shells, 31 hit, 22 penned, which is pretty trash. Normally the gun performs a bit better than that. I think we were quite unlucky with this game. And as you can see from the credit cost, we fired a lot of premium ammunition, so obviously the cost was much higher. Luckily enough, even if we weren't running a premium account, we would have made a profit, and we came out of it with a nice amount of experience to go towards my crew. So all in all, that wasn't a terrible game, considering the results and considering the amount of damage we managed to get. I hope this video's been helpful in detailing everything you need to know about the Comet, how to play it, what sort of loadout to run, what equipment to run with it, what sort of role you need to try and fulfill on the battlefield, what aspects of the Comet you want to use, the view range and the mobility and the DPM. and I hope if you pick it up, then you have lots of fun with it, because it's a really decent tank. I'll see you around later, guys.